Thank you for joining me on this new episode of my podcast, To Freedom. I am your host, Marina Theron-Monnery. Today I am joined by my guest, Tanja Mirkovic. Tanja was born and raised in Serbia, where she experienced the realities of war at the age of 12, before immigrating to the United States at 17, where she began a new chapter of her life. Her journey has been shaped by resilience, courage, and transformation, from adapting to life in a new country to navigating the challenges of single parenthood while raising a child with special needs. She has faced many obstacles that tested her strength and determination. Along the way, she also found herself in a trauma-bonded relationship, an experience that ultimately became part of her path toward healing, self-discovery, and freedom. Today, she shares her story as a testament to the power of perseverance and the possibility of creating a meaningful life beyond even the most difficult circumstances. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on this new episode of To Freedom. Welcome, Tanya. I'm so very happy that you are here with us
Thank
today.
you. Thank you so much. Likewise.
So when I first saw your information and I saw Serbia, my heart was just bounding up and down because my husband worked in Serbia for a little bit and we had 2 trips to Serbia. So there's that connection and understanding of the people of Serbia. So I kind of feel very connected to Serbian people. So I'm so happy that you are here with me today.
Oh, I'm so happy about that too. That's very special. Not a lot of people know or visit Serbia, know where it's at. So for you to have that experience, it's very dear to me.
Well, I thought that I was in the city Novi Sad and I just loved every single day to go for walks on the banks of the Danube River and see all these cruise ships that normally goes there. It was just a wonderful experience. But I think most of all is the warmth of the people really touched me. I made lifelong friends there and learned to drink rakia. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Then I know that you truly went to Serbia and stayed there for a while.
exactly, exactly. Okay, so Tanya, tell me the old story. Let begin, unfortunately, for us to know freedom, we have to know pain. So let's talk about
Absolutely.
the old story. Where do you come from?
I come from Serbia. I was born and raised there, and I was there until I was 17 years old. I must say that since I was born in 1985, beginning of 90s, I was 5 years old only, and the only things that I truly remember were struggles, because Bosnian War brought a lot of issues in the country with embargo and sanctions, and we truly as people felt that. Um, we as people, Serbians, are very, very resilient. So I feel that we adapt to changes in a very good way. So we still are able to smile and able to sing and able to get together and have that hope because it's just in our DNA. But that still does not negate that we still are struggling. So in 1999, NATO bombed Serbia, and so we had the war for 78 days, and that's when I truly felt what bombing is like. And when you live in a world where every day you're living not knowing if you're going to die, you just truly don't. You hear bombings, you hear detonations and explosives in the middle of the night, orange skies in the middle of the night. It gets confusing, but to be honest with you, after 2, 3 weeks, you just start doing business as usual. The only thing that we did not have was school, and some people weren't working. But other than that, you just adapt. So in those would be my early days. To kind of sum it up, my parents are respect. I was grateful that my parents could spend so much time with me and my sister because they were musicians, so they didn't have regular 9 to 5 job. Um, so we were traveling with them a lot. We get to speak about future, and they always kind of expected of us to think maturely more than the others. Hence why I didn't have many friends. And so when they went on a tour to United States and they came back, I saw the pictures, I saw the videos of America, and I absolutely fell in love with the opportunity, with the hope, with something that is so big. And the English language, it was just so attractive to me. So I got this idea that I can be a foreign exchange student when I'm junior in high school. So it took a little bit convincing with my parents for them to support me, but they always taught me that I am the citizen of the whole world, not just Serbia. I get to go wherever I want, being citizen of the world. And once you leave your true home, then there's nothing that can be hard to leave later on. So we made that decision that I'm gonna come. They were great support when it comes to that. I was 17, like I said, and the hardest night was I think in Rome because I was staying overnight before I traveled to LA to my final destination. And when I was in Rome in a hotel room by myself is when I truly realized you are on your own. And this is it. At the time, think about it, 2003, we did not have cell phones with video camera, with texting so often. So I could only speak to them. It was Yahoo Messenger at the time. And the video and travel with sound and video was so delayed that it didn't really make sense. But I was very limited for how much I can speak to them. So it was really emails that we could communicate. And I always had to ask even for permission to get on a computer. So I was really truly on my own. Any situation, any decision that I needed to make, any people that I was meeting, I had to make quick decisions and be a good judge of character. If I should, what I should do, how I should act. And if you think about it, you're 17, you don't even know who you truly are. You think you know. So the one thing that really helped me is not having that fear, and that comes with being young. So you're not truly attached to the outcome. You don't know how things are going to happen and manifest, but you just go. So I went, and that's where my journey truly started of discovering who I was.
Yes, so it's almost like that that night in Rome was like, oh no, what have I done? So no turning
Right.
around. Yes, no, that's
No turning
incredible. So
around.
you started this new life at 17 in the US. That must have been quite lonely for you.
It was, but I was so driven at the same time that I did not have time to think about other things. It was really, I was enjoying so much being in a country where I'm speaking English. That was a big deal to
Okay.
me. There were moments where absolutely I felt lonely, but I was, that's the great thing about sitting and talking to my parents for a very long time. And I would encourage every parent to truly spend time with their kids because the more they do that, they will be well prepared for those moments when they're not there. You never know what circumstance you're going to face in your life. Um, if they're going to depart early or not, if they're going to, what the circumstances are. But the more that parents get to spend time with their kids, the better, they're better prepared for life. So I
So
felt
you
that
were
I
in
already
a
knew.
situation though, right? Sorry to interrupt you, because you told me when we chatted before that your parents were actually well-known musicians in Serbia, right?
Yes, they were very, very popular. And so seeking approval, because I felt that I was so rejected a lot of times from my friends because I was not known as Tanya. I was more known as Tanya, the daughter of Vesna and Blaga. Those are their names. So it was hard to find that identity. So naturally, I was gravitating to me towards music as well.
Mhm.
So I just felt that that was my identity during that time being on television, watching them on television, just traveling everywhere. People were just amazed by it, and they treat
Of
you
course.
differently too. So all
Yeah.
of a sudden, what you're wearing, how you behave, what you do was just it was micromanaged. That could be part of the reason why I wanted to leave. But at the same time, I am the type of person that I don't run away from that type of attention. I feel that I just want to have something smart to say. I just want to then say something that can bring wisdom. That just gave me a platform where I can do something that's meaningful. So,
Exactly. So now you are 17 years old, you're in the US, and what happened next?
and then what happened next? I was with a foster family in California. And shortly after I was there, I met this guy who is from Bosnia, who has his own story to tell. But we met each other, and perfectly honest, great man that I felt that I have I started feeling that I have this big brother, I have this best friend, and somebody who is protecting me. And I fell in love with that. So we were together for 13 years. I moved to San Antonio, Texas after high school, and I started college. I knew that I needed to have a different career than music, especially here. So I started learning finance and started working. As I was 18 years old, I'm already having this good work ethic, I feel like, and going to school full time. So I was extremely busy, but also in this relationship. And we were both kids when we met each other. I was 18, he was 20. And as we are growing, you start to truly show later on what you are about and if you guys match or not. But when you're so in love, you're kind of blind to the truth a lot of times. And you just say, well, but I was so in love. This has to work. This has to be it. So my child was born when I was 28 years old, 2013. And it was a shocker that she was born with cleft palate because I didn't know what cleft palate meant. I thought that was something that's just going to close on its own, but I didn't know it was going to require surgery. And there are a lot of things before surgery can happen. She went through numerous surgeries by the age of 2. There were a lot of, there was a tethers cord surgery that needed to happen. There were a lot of some of the defects that happened, and then developmental delays because she has a 2p11q chromosomal duplication. That was her diagnosis. And we just don't really know what's going to come with it. You just have to kind of, as you go, you are learning. So that was the kind of hard part. So 2 years down the road, when she was about 2 years old, we ended up divorcing. And I think that that's when I truly felt that I lost myself because I was identifying myself in career. I was identifying myself as a daughter of musicians. I was identifying myself as a sister, older sister, identifying myself as a mother of this beautiful child. And when things get taken away like that, when you fill that void with worldly things, you realize that you're still not at peace. And that's why people, I feel like, who have millions of dollars, that's not going to fill that void. So you're looking for that void to fulfill it with. And that was my journey. I think the major part of my journey was discovering how to fill that void with what. And it was through my daughter, I feel like, that I truly learned that the way that I'm treating her, I should really treat myself. So as I was being lost and even entering a toxic relationship, and things were going good and things were going bad and then going good again, it was I really felt that I lost myself. And when I truly knew that is with my parents, who then later on came here to the United States 10 years later. That was about 2015, but about 2019 or 20 is when I learned that when my parents said, we don't recognize you anymore. We don't know who you are. And I thought maybe the reason is because we haven't seen each other in such a long time. I grew up, I changed, but they were talking about something completely else. They said that the spark in me was just missing. So then I started thinking, well, how do I find what that is? So their journey kept on going, and I keep making mistakes, and I feel that God will keep throwing at you the same lessons until you learn from them. So I was very reactive. I was trying to even self-medicate. I was on antidepressants and starting going to therapy. And then finally, I started listening to, as YouTube started growing with podcasts and whatnot, I started listening to David Digger Hernandez, to C.S. Lewis, Neville Goddard, and Dr. Joe Dispenza. And then I started learning about God, and I started, I was born into Orthodox Christianity, but I was never really practicing it too much. It was in my DNA, and that's about it. But really, truly being a Christian is not being baptized. It's how you live your life after you're baptized. So when I started doing meditations and I started reading the Bible and I really turned towards church, is when I started discovering something else in me, that I was actually unconditional love all along, that all my experiences in life and environment brought fear, brought jealousy, envy, grief, mourning, anger, resentment, you name it. It's just piled up on top of this unconditional love when it piles up so much and you focus on that too much, you forget underneath who you truly are. You are
I
made in
love what you're
God's
saying
image.
there because I'm quite passionate. I wrote an entire book around that. When I think when we are born, we're born on this clean slate, but then life happens and we get conditioned through life experiences, pain and discomfort, and in your case, divorce in a new country with a special needs child. And so we go into a survival mode. That's why my book is called From Survival to Freedom, because we start to just go on automatic mode and try to just survive. And with that, we lose ourselves. So I'm so glad you mentioned that. So was there a specific moment when you thought, who am I? A specific moment that made you think, I need help, I need to change.
Yes, I think it was when my parents brought up the fact that they can't recognize me anymore. They don't know who I am anymore because they truly always had my back. They always were the ones who knew me the best. So for them to say that to me, that was something I had to honestly think about. And there were, I can't say there was one particular moment. It was so many different moments throughout my life that God was just trying to wake me up and speak to me. And it wasn't until I learned to listen to my voice, to my Holy Spirit. So not my secular voice, but my Holy Spirit, that I learned that what brings me peace, who I truly should be, and how do I get to that constantly, no matter what your environment is. Um, so it was, I just felt drained. I just felt exhausted. And even though I have a job, even though I am so much better with my daughter, it was just something was missing. And I think that I was just afraid so much to be myself that I was just sick and tired of it. And I think until you reach that rock bottom, um, well, a lot of people hit the rock bottom and then change. But the truth is, you don't have to. You don't have to wait for that moment.
So I have a lot of questions that I wrote down here that I wanted to ask you. You mentioned Neville Goddard, Joe Dispenza, and then also just going deeper into that love, that unconditional love that's already inside of you. So what steps, you mentioned meditation. So what other steps did you do to move forward to just finding this true self and living as your true self?
Well, I started first doing therapies because I wanted to not have this baggage from the past. And, people are saying just go to therapy. Okay, I'm going to go to therapy. So I went to therapy. I feel that, well, I started reading the Bible. As I started reading the Bible is when I truly felt that I can leave antidepressants without knowing if it should be the time or not. I just made a decision. And interestingly, that's when I discovered that I didn't need them. I was fine without antidepressants.
Right.
So I had to just continue doing what I was doing, reading the Bible, doing the prayers. But I don't think that I was very much disciplined yet. I wasn't so convinced. When you start feeling a little bit better, then you're like, oh, okay, then I don't have to do this anymore. You need to continually do things to make the change. So meditations were something that I was making a conscious effort to say, I have to do them daily. I absolutely have to make that time to do that, or I will go back. So I think that was very important. I did 12-step program, and I can tell you that for me, that program did not work. I don't know if I wasn't just ready, but it just wasn't for me. So I started keep searching. What is it that would bring me to the point where that you're bigger than your environment, because that was the point, because that's what I was trying to tell my daughter. And it's interesting um, when I was looking at how I was treating her, how I was talking to her, I realized that this is exactly how God treats me and how he wants me to treat myself. It's that unconditional love, understanding, but it cannot come from fear. If anything comes from fear, then that is not of God. So it's really practicing the frequency of the energy that I give out to myself and then to others. Only then I can make the change. And I never wanted to be the example of what you should not do, but things of how you should do things. So it was that practice that kept me going.
So if you think of, the whole concept of freedom, Before you went through that, what freedom were you really looking for?
I was looking for financial freedom. I was looking at freedom to, on a more like, I think, worldly scale, worldly things. How big is my house? Do I have a paid off car? Do I have a car? Um, do I have my work schedule the way I wanted to have? I was just depending so much on this outcome that's worldly, and that is just that's a trap. And life will keep happening until you realize, well, what am I going to do when all these things are taken away? Why am I being conditioned and dependent on those things? And interestingly, I got to tell you that I realized one thing, that I was codependent. So I, with
Oh,
my attachment
interesting.
style, was anxious. I'm sorry.
I said it's interesting. Tell me more about that.
Yes, the codependent. Yes, because my relationships were truly showing that. And then my relationship, even as a child with my family, was showing that as well. I was always looking for approval and validation and started people pleasing. And I thought that I was just being this good and soft, humble person that's just helping others, but absolutely not. I was dying inside. And then I'm teaching my daughter that that's okay too. And that's not what I would want for her. So learning what is okay and what is not was detrimental. And when I went to see a monk, because I went to a monastery back in 2024, when I went to Serbia, I went to visit a monastery and I went to the monk. And one thing that it's so bizarre, but this was such a huge lesson. I waited for him for 3 hours to see me. I only had a couple of questions. And I waited 3 hours. He comes to me and he said, I only have 5 minutes to give you. And I cannot tell you uh, how big that was, because for such a long time I was feeling such a guilt when somebody comes to me and needs me, for me not to give my all.
Yeah.
I have to give my all every single second, even though if it means sacrificing my own time and my own plans. But he said, I have only 5 minutes to give it to you without feeling any guilt, any pressure. And I was thankful. He ended up giving me 15 minutes. But the fact that he just came like that, it was a huge lesson that later on in life, I cannot tell you the freedom I felt when I actually am honest with people, telling them I don't have time. It's a no.
Hmm.
And it's okay. I'm not
It's
mean because
liberating.
of that. Oh my gosh, how liberating. And then means that you're being your true self.
Mhm.
So that was a huge lesson. It sounds really small, even when I say it, but it was so liberating at the time. And then I'm also teaching my daughter. So when with her as well, I would get special needs kid. I mean, you are their brother and sister
Yeah.
and teacher and mother, everything. So I would be exhausted. So at times when I would be reading a book, my daughter would come and she would ask me to play in the midst of me reading a book. And after that experience with the monk, that lesson, I would have no problem to come and tell her, honey, we will play, give me 10 minutes. I'm going to finish my chapter and we will play anything you want. And she would respect that. But it felt so liberating for the first time I could come and, should I say, put myself first and execute the plan that I have, and then still have time for her. With all due respect, I'm teaching her the great thing as well, so that she doesn't repeat the same mistakes that I've done before. But to respect your time, and saying no comes from love too. It's okay to say no.
Well, what I hear in that and what I find fascinating is also you can give her kind of half your attention or you can give her your full attention. And I think today we live in a world where we have our phones with us all the time, and it's very easy to give her attention with your phone in your hand. Or, so what I'm hearing from you is that you make the choice to, I'm reading now, but when I'm done reading, I'm yours.
Absolutely.
So just that full
Absolutely.
attention.
And that's, I think, how you start breaking the old self, by
Right.
starting small little things. And it shapes me with my career, in my decisions later on. And it's like a domino effect in many other
Mhm.
things, when I start respecting myself, my time, more than I did before. Because how you treat yourself, you're teaching people how to treat you as
Mhm.
well. So that was great. I mean, I just found that you have to challenge your beliefs. And that's what I found myself doing a lot. Challenge the belief. Does it truly mean that I'm a good person if I live poorly. I'm just going to call myself
Right.
humble. I don't need a lot of money. It's okay. Does that mean that I'm a good person? Does that mean that I'm a bad person if I have more money, if I'm asking for more money? I had to challenge those beliefs. I had to challenge the belief that I need approval from others, that outcome matters. In terms of did I get this great house? Did I the goals that did I reach the goals that I set for myself? There are always reasons why things do not happen. You just have to really trust the higher power. To some people, it's they call the universe, and to me, is God and Jesus. So I always try to surrender all my worry to God, and that's something that I've learned through these meditations that I've been doing.
That's amazing. I love it. And I love that you mentioned Joe Dispenza because I've been to three of his retreats. And, you talk about how you change and understanding who you want to be. And then just repeating that in your head, and then finally living as that new version of yourself. In your case, finding your true self. In a very big case for myself is finding my true self as well. Who am I? How When I live from my true self, how do I live? How do I speak? How do I think? How do I interact? I know you talk about codependency, and exactly like I that's my background as well, always wanting to please everybody and feel validated by them. And it's just such a great process when you find your way. And what I see from you is that you find a way that works for you. And this is the kind of stories I love to hear, because I think there are so many different paths and unique individual paths for each of us that leads to freedom. And you found your way. So tell me, I have few questions left for you, but ultimately, what does freedom mean to you now? What does it look for to you like for you today?
The freedom to me is being your authentic self. And when you're authentic, you're unique. Everything that God says in the Bible, that we are forgiven, we're special, we're lovely, we are chosen. So all the things that God calls us to be, you find in our authenticity. And I think that that's where we find our purpose. Um, I feel that everybody's supposed to spread that beautiful word of God. And some people do it through art, some people through music, some people through books, some people through podcasts, some people through charity, through their business. Depends who you authentically truly are. You follow your Holy Spirit. Some people call it intuition, some people call it a gut feeling, whatever that is for you. But there is something that's greater than you, and you just let that lead you, and I believe that it will lead you to exactly where you need to go, and that is freedom, when you can be your true self without apologizing.
So Tanya, when you and I had our call last week for my audience, I always try to build a rapport with my guests before we record. You shared a few beautiful stories with me, and that was there's a toothbrush story. Tell me about the toothbrush story and the survival skills around that.
Oh my gosh, yes. So I was 12 years old when the war was going on back in 1989. And that was, I think, the second time my parents came back from the tour. They brought this so many toothbrushes, and they said the reason they brought so many because they were there for $1. I think that was a thing. We didn't have dollar stores in my country, or I don't know what the thing was. I mean, it was there for a reason. Maybe I guess this is the reason why we had them. But there were so many toothbrushes in my pantry, and because my parents weren't performing during the war, we at some point did not have really money, and I we had some money, but it just wasn't it was we were acknowledging that it was a lack of. So I grabbed those toothbrushes and I took it to my friend whose mom worked at some company, and I said, "Hey, can you ask your mom if she can sell those toothbrushes for $5, $5 each?" And so she did. And then there was, I think, 15 dinars that I brought home. And that could mean at the time that you can buy about 10 breads. So I just put it in an ashtray. We had money stacked in the ashtray and just left it there. And I was afraid to tell my parents about that. I was afraid that they would get mad. Um, but later on, when I heard them saying, "Oh, where's this money? Where this money came from?" My heart was just so full, because I felt like I did something, for the family in these hard times, So maybe I can call myself a small entrepreneur at a young age.
Exactly. Exactly. So I want to go back a little bit more into your childhood here because things were not always great. You talked about your relationship with your father. Are you okay to share about that?
Sure, sure. As we all do, we do the best that we can, absolutely the
Mhm.
best we can. And you have to break some generational curses or some cycles.
Indeed.
And he had his own past. I don't want to talk on his behalf, but he wanted the best for us. And just the way that he was trying to convey the message to us was really, really harsh. And it was something that I developed because I was also very um, sensitive to other people's energy, maybe a bit too much. I don't even think you call those people super empaths. I'm one of those people. And so I would sense the energy and then I would start feeling like I'm not necessarily responsible for it, but I made it bigger than what it really is internally. So I felt like I always needed to do something about that. So when he would get mad, frustrated, I would just be very fearful. So I always felt that I needed to calm the situation down before it explodes. And then, he wanted to encourage me to be the best version of myself. And he did it sometimes with comparing me to other people. So that actually, with me, created this competitiveness where I felt like I needed to be the best. And even if it means that everybody around me will suffer because of that, I need to be the best because my father has to say, "You are the best." Those are some things that I take away from that time, but it shaped me who I was later on. It truly did. So I had to challenge those beliefs as well.
Isn't it wonderful to look back today? And I love Wayne Dyer's book. I can see clearly now where he took everything in his life and looked back and saw
Right.
how it shaped him and sculpted him to become the person he was. You also mentioned that you had an incident when you were 9 years old and your parents didn't believe you. Are you okay to talk about that?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. So yes, I was 9 years old when there was a musician in my parents' band who, especially at that time, that was kind of like a taboo thing to talk about. Pedophiles. I mean, who would possibly think about somebody so close to you? You trust people, and when you don't have that experience or experience within the family, I can understand when people don't know when to ask questions. You're starting to think, well, this little child is probably making up a story. You watch movies, you watch cartoons, you just kind of develop this whole little story. And that's what people believed, including my parents, when I shared that that this guy actually did come and started kissing me. And I felt at that time, honestly, that it took that innocence away from me. It doesn't even matter how far it goes. He took that innocence away from me. um, so that's something that I struggle with later on. And I knew that he did something wrong. I knew that it wasn't really my fault. But at the moment, I felt very lonely when you have parents who don't believe you at the time. Um, and I was struggling for about 3 years. And then as I was consistent with my story, my mom finally said, "Did he do anything else to you?" And that's when it started to get better. I feel like that at the time, you're a child. What are you going to tell yourself if somebody's not there to protect you? Will do my parents really love me? But later on, you realize that people just don't know. They've never experienced that situation. I have so much more compassion right now. It's not an excuse. I truly have compassion when people make mistakes where things I'm coming from. As long as they learn from it, don't beat them about that. I am huge also when it comes to that and other people. Be compassionate because we all make mistakes. We want to be forgiven as well. So forgive others. It's very, very important.
I always think of forgiveness as, and I think we all heard that many times. In the end of the day, it's keeping that absolute pure relationship between you and whoever you believe in, and just keep that line of communication open, and just keeping that purity within your heart. And I absolutely love the Ho'oponopono. And I apply that so many times. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Because it clears my energy. It clears my heart. It
Exactly.
clears my
Yes.
thoughts and whatever else goes with it. So I absolutely love that exercise in forgiveness. So, okay. You also was telling me about the story of a book, Finding Where I Belong.
Yes. So I started writing that book back in, I believe, 2010. And it was funny when I came back about 12 years later to read the book and finish it, actually. I was saying, oh my gosh, this was one very, very bitter person writing this book, very resentful and angry.
Yeah,
So I'm coming from a different perspective. This is now a healed version of me that I'm writing this book. So I had to go back. The events are true, but my perspective is changing.
yeah,
So I started rewriting the book, and it becomes really, really easy. I always love writing and expressing myself. So the book should be published by the end of this year. So I'm very
wonderful.
excited about that, and I will keep people um, informed through my social media on my Facebook and my Instagram as things are coming along. But I'm yes, I'm very, very excited as I go into more details about the events that were happening about my life and how I made changes.
That's amazing. I absolutely love that because I went through that exact same process. I wrote a book in 2019 and it was just throwing up all my pain and all the dirty laundry from my childhood. And but then earlier this year, I published one that was where I am now and looking back at it and feeling that I wrote from healing and not from so much pain. So I think you will relate to that. Please keep me in the loop. Maybe I'll have you back and discuss your book when you are ready for
Absolutely.
me. So, and also, Tanya, tell us how our audience can connect with you.
They can connect with me through Instagram and Facebook. So it's Tanja Mirkovic. It's TanjaMirkovic. They can find me through there. I will also post a lot of videos on in segments about everything that I want to share that also belongs to the book, and also my Gmail. I'm open to answering any questions. I my email is Tanya Yuga, Tanyayuga at gmail.com. And I will start posting videos and answering some of the questions. So that will be, I think, a fun experience, something that we can all communicate through that. So
Excellent. I will also put links in the description of this video on YouTube
okay.
so that people can just follow that and find you there. Okay, so final thoughts, Tanya. What message would you like listeners to take away from our conversation today?
To um, to answer their own questions, what freedom is to them. And I can tell you that from my own experience that the true purpose, we're all looking for purpose, why we are here, what decisions we need to make, and there are numerous decisions we need to make daily. And it comes down to who we truly are, what freedom is to us, who are we authentically. And I think that that's the answer to every question that they have, to turn to God, or whoever their higher power is. Like I said, to me, it's God and Jesus. And that brought me peace more than anything. And I would encourage every single person that is lost, trying to find the answers, not sure what to do, is just to seek God.
Beautiful. Tanya, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your beautiful story and your beautiful heart and just showing us your resilience, tenacity, entrepreneurship, and all those beautiful things. I I wish you just the best. And again, please keep me in the loop about your book. And I just want to send some love to your daughter today. She must be 13 years old now. And I think she's so blessed to have you as a mother and just investing so much of yourself into her. Um, I think love cures everything, it conquers everything. And thank you so much for being that beautiful example of love to all of us. I'm honored to have you here today. And to everybody listening, please connect with Tanya if you want to have a conversation with her. She's a lovely person. And she's also a singer. I have to say that. Yes. Do you still sing some, Tanya?
I sing sometimes, yes, but nothing
Don't give it
professional.
up.
Thank
Don't
you
give
so
it up.
much.
It's
I
your
won.
soul, right? And thank you everybody for being here. And if you don't mind, please subscribe to this channel. It helps me a lot. And I will see you next time.